Hello everyone, welcome to our tutorial on how to render a subreport in your Blazor Server application with the Report Viewer control. A subreport is a report item that references another report and acts as a container to display one report within a main report. It allows you to reuse existing reports within other ones, display related data from different datasets, and organize complex reports into manageable sections. Subreports also enable dynamic content presentations, like showing detailed information for each item in a summary report. For this example, I have already designed my reports. The Employee Comparison Report acts as the main report, and Employee Details is the subreport. In this video, I will render an Employee Comparison Report in a Blazor application. I've already installed the .NET SDK on my machine to create a Blazor Server application with Visual Studio Code. Let's start by creating a Blazor Server application through the command prompt. First, I create an application named Blazor Server Viewer. I need to install the NuGet packages to add the necessary dependencies to the application. To do this, I change the current working directory to the application's root folder. The target framework Net 6.0 is out of support and will no longer receive security updates. So, I will upgrade the project's target framework to version 8.0. After the upgrade, I will restore the dependencies using .NET Restore, and then build the project. I then add the boldreports.net.core package to the application. This NuGet package contains all the dependency packages to add the Bold Reports Report Viewer to the application. This NuGet package contains all the dependency packages to add the Bold Reports Report Viewer to the application. Next, I create a resources folder in the www root folder of my application to store the RDL reports. For this video, I will render an employee comparison main report with the employee details subreport. So, I add these reports to the resources folder. After adding the sample reports to the application, I initialize the report viewer in the project. In this section, I will integrate JavaScript controls by creating an interop file to initialize the report viewer with basic parameters. So, I create a new class file named boldreportvieweroptions.cs within the data folder. Then I declare the Blazor Server Viewer.data namespace and define the Bold Report Viewer Options class within it. This class contains the report name and the service URL properties for configuring the Report Viewer component into a Blazor application. Next, I create a scripts folder within the www root directory to hold the script files. Then, I create a JavaScript file named boldreports.interop.js within the scripts folders. I add the render viewer function to invoke the Bold Report Viewer JavaScript control in the Blazor Server project. The report path specifies the path to the report that you want to render. And report service URL specifies the URL of the report service that processes and renders the report. Now I need to reference the scripts and the style sheet. Here I will use CDN links to reference the report viewer scripts and style sheet. You can also use local scripts and themes. So, I open the _layout.cs HTML page in the Pages folder. Then copy the code from the documentation and add the CDN links with the Bold Reports Interop.js file to use the JavaScript reporting controls in the head tag. I have included the documentation link in the video description. Now I will configure the Web API. The Blazor app requires a Web API service to render the report viewer control. So I create a new controller file named reportviewercontroller.cs within the data folder. In that file, I need to add all the necessary using statements for references and declare namespaces and add classes within it. So I add the Microsoft.ASP.NETCore.MVC namespace to the controller file, which lets me build the web application, including web APIs, and provides routing and model binding. And I add the boldreports.web.report viewer namespace, which provides the class and interfaces specific to the Bold Reports library and is used to configure and manage the report viewer. Next, I add the Microsoft.ASP.NETCore.HTTP namespace, which is used to handle HTTP requests and responses. Additionally, I add the Microsoft.Extensions.Caching.Memory namespace, which provides in-memory caching capabilities to store and retrieve data quickly. Then I add the Blazor Server Viewer.Data namespace to avoid naming conflicts. Inside that, I add the attribute to enable cross-origin resource sharing for that endpoint, using the rules defined in the Allow All Origins policy. And add the route attribute for the report viewer controller. Next, I inherit the controller base and implement the iReport controller interface in the report viewer controller class to handle the report viewing. To read the report file from the application, I use the iWeb hosting environment with dependency injection. Next, add the post-report action method to process the report request from the server side based on a JSON parameter and send the response back to the client side using the HTTP post action. I add the onInit report options method, which is invoked from a report helper when the report is about to be processed at the time of preview. Inside this method, you will need to load the main and subreports as a stream. Create a base path variable to combine the web root path of the application and resources folder. Then add an if condition that checks whether the subreport model property of the report option object is not null. Inside the block, create a report path variable to combine the base path and report name using report option.subreportModel.report path to access the available subreport. Next, create a file stream instance to open the employee details subreport file in the resources folder within the www root directory using the report path variable. Then, create a memory stream to store the report data. And copy the file stream into it. This copy process prevents file access problems in the server while running the application. Finally, assign the substream values to the report option.subreportModel.stream variable. Inside else block, I will add the same code snippet and use the report model object instead of the subreport model. Next, I add the onReportLoaded method, which will be invoked from a report helper when the report and subreport start loading for report rendering. Next, I add the getResource method to get images to be used in the report from the server when I preview the report. The action name getResource and accept verbs, getAttributes specify the endpoint and HTTP verb for retrieving resources. I then add postFormReport action to save the exported report to the client side using the HTTP post action. Now I need to invoke the web API in the controller from the client side to view the report. So I open the index.razor file in the Pages folder and add the Microsoft.JS Interop and Microsoft.ASP.NETCore.components namespaces and inject the IJS runtime. These are used to invoke the JavaScript function from the Blazor component. Additionally, I add the Blazor Server Viewer.data namespace, in which Blazor Server Viewer is the name of the application. Next, I create a div element to contain the rendered report on the client side, and assign the ID attribute and styles to it. The ID attribute specifies the unique name for the HTML element. The style attribute is used to add the inline style for the div element, and I assign width and height. Inside the @code, I create an instance of the Bold Report Viewer options class and initialize the Render Report Viewer method. Inside the method, I assign values to the service URL and report name property. Then I add the invoke void async method, which invokes the render viewer JavaScript function asynchronously. Next, I add the onAfter render within the at code, which is called after the report viewer component has been rendered. Next, I open the program.cs file. I added the addCores method, which is commonly used to configure cross-origin resource sharing policies for web applications. And invoke the app.mapControllers function to enable routing to controller action methods, allowing incoming HTTP requests to be mapped to the appropriate actions based on attributes. Finally, I need to register the license token to remove the license validation message. In this demo, I'm going to use the online license token. License tokens can be generated in the Claim License Key section of the Bold Reports Accounts page. I enter the code snippet to register the token. I have provided a link to documentation on registering a license using online license tokens and offline license keys in this video's description. Now everything is ready to preview the report. So I run this command in the command prompt and generates an URL. Then I copy the URL and run it in a browser. See, the employee comparison main report has been rendered with employee details subreport. To learn more about Bold Reports, you can visit boldreports.com. If you don't have a Bold Report subscription, you can try out the platform using the Try It Free option. If you prefer a demo from an expert, Request Demo lets you schedule one. If you found this video useful, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.